Again, you have 10-minute opening, 8-minute for questions from council, and then a 2-minute summation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, members of Allentown City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present myself before you tonight as a potential mayoral appointment. These are very serious times in our city, and before you tonight is a very serious decision. The recent past has been fraught with contention, strife, and the accompanying pain that this has brought to our city, its government, most especially our faithful city workers. Most of you know me through my many years of service and volunteerism within the city. I do believe that I'm the person that has the experience, skills, the energy and temperament to work collaboratively in moving our city forward. I have a varied background, social work, active in neighborhood groups and community groups, PTOs, business experience in leading a technology company. I think someone with the technology experience might be useful during these times. Also past chair of the Allentown Chamber of Commerce most recently. I've been on the Allentown School District Foundation Board since 2010, a year after it first started. And the last 4 years in the Allentown School Board, seeing significant change for the Allentown School District, our community, and our students. Most people do not get involved in politics because of bad politics, the backroom politics, or promises of power. Throughout this process, as well as last year's campaign, I did not make any promises to people for positions or power, just so I could be elected or chosen by you tonight to serve in an interim basis. It is my conviction that our community deserves more, a promise to serve them and not ourselves. But tonight I've got 5 promises. 5 promises for you, the city staff, and our community. My first 3 promises are foundational. Foundational to repair the harm of the past and prevent these issues from occurring again in the future. They are ethics reform, number 1, number 2, financial reform, and number 3, human resources reform. Ethics reform. I will work with council to update our ethics policy, our board, and practices, so they are clear and comprehensive, providing clear guidance to city officials, employees, contractors, and citizens. Not only will I abide, but I will lead by example as I've done in the Allentown School District Board. Ethics lives in the light. And in my administration, a light will shine, even posting ethics rulings online. Together, we will have a functional board of ethics that will serve our community well by providing the guidance, opinions, and when necessary, even investigations. Number 2, financial reform. Together, we will establish a core team made up of council, our city controller, and staff, who will work with a trustworthy, independent third party, possibly even including the State Auditor General, to research, prepare, and present publicly a financial condition analysis of our city's current financial baseline, along with a 5-year projected forecast. We have to own our financial reality as a city, but we have to first see what the financial reality truly is. Once we get an independent analysis, we can make intelligent decisions on how to move forward in the best interest of the city. I will work with council, the city controller, and staff to ensure that we are implementing the best practices for purchasing and procurement by reviewing and updating as needed ordinances with you, policies, and procedures. As mayor, I'll work with you on council to ensure that the role of mayor is removed from the bid process, and that this ethical process is codified. Number 3, human resources reform. I will work with council, I'll work with staff, to ensure that our human resources, hiring, and employee retention policies, procedures, application process are purposeful and effective for the city staff. Our home rule charter does mandate, as is pointed out in your questionnaire, that we have a merit personnel system. We will ensure, you, the mayor, ensure that we comply with this in practice. I will work with you as council to adopt the proper ordinance and administrative code that will provide for greater specificity of our city's merit personnel system, to include a method of due process, so that our city's great workers never have to live under this fear again. Our city staff will not work and should not work under nepotism, favoritism, or fear. Together with council, I will investigate the creation of a Merit Systems Protection Board to ensure that our merit personnel system provides adequate protection for our employees against abuses by elected officials or management. The reality is that people, starting here in City Hall, need to be treated with honor and respect, because that will spill out into the community as well. So these are my three foundational promises: ethics reform, financial reform, human resources reform. But we cannot stop there. We cannot stay inside of City Hall. Our city's government exists to serve the people. So the next two promises are, number one, our neighborhoods. It is the city's responsibility to drive forward with a clear vision and policy for the health of our neighborhoods. The city must take the lead in this. It's not going to be the business community. It's not going to be the county of Lehigh, the state of Pennsylvania, or the federal government that's going to come in and provide vision and leadership for growing, healthy neighborhoods in the city of Allentown. It comes from this building and the people inside this building, and the community itself in collaboration. The initiatives that we can have in City Hall, here's just a few of those that we can do for our neighborhoods. We will reconnect City Hall with our neighborhoods and groups throughout the entire city. We will have a member of my staff, if you choose me as mayor, at community and neighborhood meetings. We will support our communities who want to establish and reestablish neighborhood and community associations. We will ensure that our code inspectors are supported to do the work necessary for ensuring building safety of our residents. We will create a plan for commercial neighborhoods, the east and south sides of Allentown, which is critical. And we will begin working on an open and honest process for creating an affordable housing policy. Secondly, our children in school district. It's been a passion of mine for many years here in Allentown. We will have a member of my staff attend all Allentown school district meetings. The relationship between the school district and City Hall needs to become one of total collaboration and support for one another. I'd venture to say there's probably no one in the list of candidates who has the relationship with our current administration and school district that I do. And I will ensure that that relationship extends from City Hall to the Allentown School District. We will work together as a city to ensure that our children will read at a third grade reading level by the time they move on to fourth grade. Now, why am I choosing this as mayor? This is not the Allentown School District, this is City Hall, this is city government. It's proven over and over again by studies that children, number one, will learn to read from pre-K to third grade. From fourth grade on, they read to learn. If we want to, and we do, affect the lives of our young people, we must start at a very young age. The school district, yes, is responsible for educating our children, but we need help. We need help in volunteers. Right now, the Allentown School District Foundation has a little over 100 volunteers going into kindergartens every single week, spending one-on-one time with kindergartners, helping them learn to read at a faster pace than if we did not have those volunteers. We need over 1,000 volunteers in our community to do that. I've talked to Thomas Parker, Mr. Parker, about the possibility of doing this and increasing the level of that in the future, and the infrastructure will be there. This is not an ASD issue, literacy of our children. This is a city issue. This is a community issue. This is a citywide issue. And I will use the role of mayor to work with the Allentown School District in enrolling volunteers and providing this foundational opportunity for our children in our community. So these are my 5 promises that I've outlined. Ethics reform, financial reform, human resources reform, commitment to our neighborhoods, and childhood literacy and a commitment to our school district. As you can see, there's a lot of work to be done. Together as a team, we must own the work and get it done to serve our city. Thank you.
Mr. Thiel, you set the clock for 8 minutes.
Hi, thank you.
So, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Thiel, for coming over and wanting to be mayor. Oh, I know that. But I got just a quick question. You talked about your 3 points, and I'm going to concentrate primarily on the financial reform part. Okay, so You talked very eloquently about building a 5-year plan or getting somebody to do a 5-year plan, just as it was done for the school district, I'm assuming. And it's something that I've been wanting to do as chair of the finance committee, and I'm basically waiting until we get a new mayor so we can start that process. And I think it will be beneficial for our city. But in addition to that, people talk about a structural deficit of about $8 million in our budget next year. And we're gonna, regardless of what when we get somebody, regardless of what he or she develops, or what kind of proposal he gives us at the end, we need to raise money. And you know the way we raise money in the city, right? Fees and taxes primarily, and borrowing money, which we have to pay back. What will you do besides that to bring some money into the city, more money, to increase our revenue that, the city, we don't produce anything, obviously. What will you do?
Sure, so one of the things we can look at, that's been talked about quite a bit, is a modified pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes. Will that solve the structural deficit? We don't know what it is, but it will increase revenue, which is part of the goal, obviously.
We have some of that a little bit, not entirely, but we do get some pilot from some of the organizations, including the Allentown Housing Authority.
Yeah, so that is certainly one way we can increase revenue. The increase of revenue, as you mentioned, obviously is easily done with tax increases or increasing the EIT. No one wants to do that. I'm sure this body doesn't want to do that. I know being serving in the Allentown School Board, we never want to do that. That's always something of last resort than anything else. But I will tell you, and just so anybody has a question, nothing's off the table in terms of moving forward. I would not stand up here and make promises one way or the other regarding taxes. I think we need to look at our finances holistically. So to answer your question, Mr. Greedy, I don't think there's a magic bullet to bring that extra revenue in. I do think pilot is one of those programs. I'm not standing up here having all the answers, but I certainly, in a collaborative fashion, would work with many different people that are smarter than me in that area to discover ways that we can certainly raise revenue above and beyond the taxes and EIT.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen, anybody stop the clock for just a second? Sir, take that sign outside the council chambers, please. You with the hat on, the white shirt, sign outside council chambers. He's holding it in his hand. Sir, would you just please take the sign outside?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. If we get the clock back. We're in. Yes, ready. Mr. Hendricks.
Glad I didn't wear my shirt.
Mr. Thiel, and
The
thank
one
you
for
your
O'Connell.
willingness to serve. My question for you is, we have a bit of a problem with the Allentown Police Department right now in some of our senior leadership positions, where we've got 2 police chiefs who have left within the span of a year each, and one of the assistant chiefs about to leave also. How would you go about filling those positions? And in that, would you be considering taking or hiring somebody from the outside?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hendricks, for the question. I think the objective, I would assume, is to get the best leader we can for the Allentown Police Department in the role of chief. That would obviously mean doing a search and doing something that would look for that person to play that role. I think it's critical, though, and I want to add on to that, that whoever's in that role needs to really have a vision and experience with mentoring and creating succession planning. We've gone through this over the years. Mr. McLean, Mr. Hendricks, and Mr. Zuckel, obviously you've experienced this firsthand. I've experienced it from a distance as a resident, but this is a long time in dealing with the mass quick exodus attrition from the pension 10 years ago. We're still dealing with it, obviously, today, to answer your question. So we need to fix that in that person, ensuring that we have a long-term plan of mentoring and succession planning.
And one other follow-up question, if I may, when you said a search, would that include a national search?
So the search would be outside of the department. I would open that up to whomever, wherever. A national search would be fine with me. I think it's important to not limit the pool of people who we want to come, because again, the outcome being looking for the best person to be able to lead the department.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Thiel. I have questions here for you, but you answered them all. So I really don't have any questions for you.
As everyone knows, we have a drug epidemic. Do you have any feedback on how we can tackle this issue in this city?
I don't have any specific answers to address that. I do think that, you know, we need to be working collaboratively. There's a lot of resources available specifically to the county that come through the state, not as much as we all would like. But there are resources that come with the county, so working collaboratively with the county and various nonprofits to address those. I know within the school district, we've been addressing that. There's been more education for our staff as well as to the students in regards to that. So, you know, addressing that issue collaboratively, because we don't hold all the resources internally here in the city government, but certainly expanding that program to educate and do some triage and intervene on behalf of those people would be helpful. And you know, I would work very hard at that, obviously, in my administration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, we are now a city known as a corrupt city. What would you do to change that appearance and perception?
Well, I've already outlined specific things with the ethics reforms. In terms of the corrupt city, can you be more specific as to what you mean by that?
Well,
So I can be more specific.
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously our recent mayor, that's why we're here. So there was a guy on 47 charges.
Yeah, so like I said, in terms of ethics reform, in terms of purchasing, changing those things so that specifically, I made the mention of, you know, taking the mayor out of the bid process. I think that's really important. I think working with city council to create a really good ethics. When you read the ethics policy, there's a lot of teeth in there that hasn't been used, right? So working with council, because I think council should have some power and authority in the future so that in the event something does happen, as it did, and we can look at that together. That's why I just talked about doing that collaboratively and looking at seeing how we can take some of that power and ensure that council is able to initiate some of those things with the ethics board if necessary and possible.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Thiel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Thiel, for your willingness to be here tonight. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Ms. Keller earlier. What would you do specifically to try and attract good-paying manufacturing jobs to the city?
Certainly. We do have, you know, some small manufacturers. I know AEDC has been working on a manufacturing walk to where you work plan. We haven't gotten much traction with that. I think that plan's been out maybe close to 4 years now. So in terms of the properties that are available for the smaller manufacturing, the micro manufacturing, and the walk to work, you know, working with collaboratively with state, with county, and with LVEDC to ensure that we get a place at the table with manufacturing, which is growing by leaps and bounds here in the Lehigh Valley. So we need to get a seat at the table, which is really critical in leading that.
Thank you, Mr. Thiel. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Thiel, and you'll now have 2 minutes to tell us why you should be chosen by this body. Phil Mayorson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not looking for a political career. I'm not looking for a dynasty, but rather an opportunity to continue to give back to my community in a more engaged and meaningful way as mayor. From ethics reform, financial reform, taking care of our employees, supporting and growing our neighborhoods and children, and we must focus on serving our community. I am in my nature a collaborator. That's what I do. And we must have healthy relationships. A lot of the questions that came from council tonight are questions that don't reside in the office of mayor. The answers aren't just there. The answers are with council. The answers are with the collaborative groups that we work with, specifically Allentown School District, the County of Lehigh, the state, potentially even the federal government. Lots of nonprofits that are working diligently within our community to reach out and serve our community. And of course, our residents, and working very closely in a collaborative manner with our residents. There is a lot of work to be done, a lot of work that needs to be done, and work we must do together, mayor, council, and staff. As a baseline, people must be treated with honor and respect. As mayor, I will be judged on how I treat our staff and community. The same is true of council. It is my expectation that we will have the highest regard for each other, our city employees and community. We may not always agree, but we will treat each other with respect. That is what our city deserves. We as a city are bigger and better than our current state of affairs. And I'm asking you to make a decision for me to be appointed mayor because I have the skills, the experience, the vision, the energy, and the temperament to accomplish the collaborative work that is before us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thiel. That